Hey everyone, welcome to Breathe and Unpack. This is our space to slow down, breathe, and talk honestly about the things life throws at us. Here, nothing is off limits. Relationships, family, jobs, stress, and personal struggles. Sometimes we'll vent, sometimes we'll reflect, and every time we'll ask, what can I take away from this? You're not just listeners, you're part of our support system. That means we share, we listen, we take what we need, and we leave the judgment at the door. At the end of each episode, I'll share one simple takeaway, something you can carry with you into your own day. And I'd love to hear what you take away too. As always, we're just exploring here, breathing through what comes up and unpacking it gently at our own pace. Let's take a moment to breathe, settle in, and slowly unpack whatever is unfolding for us today. Have you ever heard people say things like, I miss those days? Things were so much better back then. I wish I could go back. I miss who I used to be. Every time I hear someone say something like that, I always feel like there's more underneath it. Because what exactly are we missing? Is it the actual moment, the actual person, the actual friendship, the relationship, or something else? The more I think about it, the more I wonder if we really miss the past at all. Maybe we missed who we were. Maybe we missed how we felt. Maybe we missed what we thought was going to happen. Maybe we missed the version of the story we've created since then. Sometimes the things we claim we miss now are the exact same things we couldn't wait to get away from when we were living through them. Relationships are probably one of the biggest examples. You ever find yourself thinking about somebody from your past, and for 1 second you start wondering, what if? What if things worked out? What if things were different? What if we met at another time? What if we tried again? Then you start remembering the good stuff, the laughs, the inside jokes, the conversations, the good mornings, the moments that made you feel chosen, the moments that made you feel special. Sometimes we replay the best moments over and over, and we quietly leave out the rest. The confusion, the disappointments, the conversations that never got resolved, the things that kept hurting, the nights you couldn't sleep, the moments you felt alone even though you weren't alone. And before you know it, you're missing a version of the relationship that only existed in pieces. Sometimes we're not missing the person. Sometimes we're missing the possibility, the future we imagined, the plans we made, the life we thought might happen, the version of the story that never got a chance to play out. If somebody handed you the entire relationship exactly the way it really was, not the highlights, not the cute memories, the whole thing, would you still want it back? Friendships can be the same way. I think friendship nostalgia hits differently. Sometimes nobody did anything terrible. Life just happened. People moved. People got busy. People changed. People became different versions of themselves. And one day you look up and somebody who used to know everything about your life knows almost nothing about it now. That's crazy when you think about it. There are people who used to be a part of your everyday life, and now you don't even know what they had for breakfast. You don't know who they're dating. You don't know what they're worried about. You don't know what they're celebrating. And sometimes what we miss isn't even the friendship itself. Sometimes we miss having someone who knew that version of us. The version of us that existed back then. The jokes, the memories, the experiences, the season of life we shared. Because friendships hold pieces of our history. And when they change, it can feel like a piece of our history changed too. And that's probably the part of why we romanticize the past. We're not just remembering people, we're remembering versions of ourselves that existed around those people. And sometimes that's what we're really missing. I think childhood might be one of the biggest examples. How many times have you heard somebody say, I wish I was a kid again? People say that all the time. And trust me, I get it. No bills, no work, no responsibilities, no worrying about insurance, no wondering where all your money went 5 minutes after payday. I understand that part. But every time I hear somebody say they miss being a kid, I always wonder which part. Because childhood wasn't easy for everybody. Some people were carrying things as children that they should have never had to carry. Some people were trying to keep the peace in the house. Some people were walking on eggshells. Some people were trying to be perfect. Some people learned very early how to stay quiet, how to stay out the way, how to not ask for too much, how to not become a problem. And what's crazy to me is when we look back, we don't always remember all of that at first. We remember the bike rides, the cartoons, the snacks, the summer vacations, the holidays, the cousins, the sleepovers, the songs, the little moments that made us happy. But sometimes our minds take those memories and place them in front of everything else. And before you know it, childhood starts to look simpler than it actually was. Then there's family, and family is complicated. Family memories can be beautiful and painful at the same exact time. You can miss a family gathering while also remembering the drama. You can miss having everybody together while also remembering why you needed space. You can miss a person without missing the way they treated you. I think that's what makes family nostalgia so confusing. Because we're not always missing the reality. Sometimes we're missing the idea of everybody together, the idea of feeling connected, the idea of what we wanted the family to be. Then there are old neighborhoods. Have you ever gone back somewhere you used to live or driven through an area you haven't seen in years? I did that recently. And suddenly memories start showing up out of nowhere. You remember people, you remember smells, you remember little things you forgot existed. A corner store, a bus stop, a park, a building, a monument. And for a second, it's almost like time stopped. But then you look closer. The neighborhood changed. The people changed. The stores changed. And honestly, you changed too. And I think that's the part that we're feeling. Because when we visit old places, sometimes we're not looking for the place. Sometimes we're looking for ourselves. The version of us that used to exist there. And that's something I don't think people talk about or even realize, because I didn't realize it. And that's kind of why we're unpacking it today. Like old jobs. I recently switched jobs about a year ago, and I found myself thinking about it. People would complain about a job every single day. every day. The boss, the schedule, the coworkers, the workload, everything. Then 6 months later, they're talking about, man, I miss that place. Do you? Or do you miss knowing what every day was like? Do you miss the routine? Do you miss the people? Do you miss the comfort or familiarity? Because even stressful situations can start looking good from a distance. Not because they were good, but because they're familiar. And familiar feels safe. That's one of the biggest things I'm realizing. Sometimes we're not missing happiness, we're missing familiarity. And those are not the same thing. A lot of people go back to things that weren't healthy because they were familiar. A lot of people stay attached to things that weren't good for them because they were familiar. A lot of people convince themselves the past was better because at least they knew what to expect. And maybe that's part of why we romanticize it. The past already happened. We know how that story ends. The future doesn't give us that luxury. The future asks us to trust something we can't see yet. And sometimes that's scary. I feel like one of the biggest things we romanticize is old versions of ourselves. Maybe more than other people. Maybe even more than places. Ourselves. Because how many times have you heard somebody say, I miss who I used to be? That's a heavy statement. What does it mean? Do you miss who you were? Do you miss how life felt back then? Do you miss being younger? Do you miss being more hopeful? Do you miss having fewer responsibilities? Do you miss believing everything was still possible? I think people say they miss who they used to be, when what they really miss is how they felt. Maybe you miss being excited. Maybe you miss being optimistic. Maybe you miss taking chances. Maybe you miss not overthinking everything. Maybe you miss the version of yourself that hadn't been disappointed yet. Life changes us. Some changes are good. Some changes are painful. Some changes happen so slowly, you don't even realize they're happening until one day you look in the mirror and think, when did I become this serious? When did I stop doing that thing I loved? When did I become so guarded? When did I stop trusting people so easily? When did I stop dreaming so big? A lot of us have moments like that. I have moments like that. But here's the thing. Sometimes we're comparing our current selves to an edited version of our past selves. That old version of you wasn't perfect either. They had fears, they had insecurities, they had struggles, they had days where they didn't know what they were doing, just like you do now. The difference is, time has softened the edges. Time has made you remember the parts you miss and forgot some of the parts you don't. And then there are people who hurt us. This one is interesting for me because sometimes people leave our lives and years later we find ourselves thinking about them. Not all the time, just randomly. A song comes on, you drive past the place, you hear a name, you smell something familiar, and suddenly they're back in your mind. And sometimes that confuses people because maybe they're like, what am I thinking about a person who hurt me for? Why am I thinking about them? Why do I still miss them sometimes? Why do I still think about that friendship, that relationship, that person? But you know what? People can hurt us and still be connected to meaningful memories. People can disappoint us and still be a part of an important chapter of our lives. Those things can exist at the same time. The problem starts when we begin rewriting the story, when we start removing all the parts that hurt, when we start convincing ourselves that somebody was different than they actually were, when we start remembering potential instead of reality, because potential is dangerous. Potential sounds like they would have changed, they would have gotten better, it would have worked eventually. Maybe I just needed to wait, and maybe, but maybe not. And that's the part we never know. So instead of remembering what happened, we start remembering what could have happened. And you know what? That's a completely different story now. And this brings me to what I've been thinking about this entire episode: memory versus reality. I think that's what we're talking about here. Not the past. Memory. The way we remember things. The way we retell stories to ourselves. The way certain moments gets bigger. The way certain moments get smaller. The way some details stay and some disappear. Think about how often people talk about the good old days. I hear that often, the good old days, especially from elders. Sometimes I laugh because if we could actually drop somebody back into that exact period, the same problems would probably still be waiting for them. The same stress, the same uncertainty, the same things they were complaining about back then. Because when we're living life, we don't know it's going to become a memory one day. We're just living it. And I think that's what makes this so interesting. Because right now, today, while you're listening to this episode, this season of your life, the one you're currently living, might be a season you miss one day, even if it's not perfect, even if you're stressed, even if you're confused, even if you're waiting for something to change. One day you might look back and realize this was part of the good old days too. And everything didn't have to be perfect, but it's because life was happening. And maybe that's the takeaway. Maybe the past isn't always better. Maybe it's just easier to love something once you already know how the story ends. Maybe we're not always missing the actual moment. Maybe we're missing how we remember it. Maybe we're missing pieces of ourselves. Maybe we're missing certain feelings. Maybe we're missing certain people. Maybe we're missing possibilities. But whatever it is, I think it's worth asking ourselves one question. If I could go back, would I really want those whole experience again? Or am I only missing certain parts? Because those can be two completely different answers. The past deserves to be remembered, but it doesn't always deserve to be recreated. Some chapters were meant to shape us, not hold us. Some moments were meant to be remembered, not returned to. Take what you need from today's conversation and leave the rest. We'll keep unpacking next time. They needed to hear. I'd also love to hear from you. You can email me at breathe_unpack@gmail.com or connect with me on Instagram at breathe_unpack. Whether it's your story, your takeaway, or just a thought you want to get off your chest, this space is for all of us. And just a quick reminder, this podcast isn't therapy or professional advice. I'm learning and growing right alongside you. These are real conversations meant to spark reflection and support, not replace the help of a professional. We are building a support system together, one breath, one story, one moment at a time.